I want to say good morning to David Nelson, Belpointe Asset Management, for more on market activity. David, I know that you've been watching the market action throughout the week, and we're seeing possibly two up days back to back in a row on Wall Street. What would you read into that? Is that a signal that perhaps we're starting to turn around?
We could use a couple of days like that. What we'd want to see is not 1,000-point moves in either direction. Yesterday was at least a positive day. Today's an option expiration day, so you're seeing the sector movements this morning are monumental. You got financials. Last time I looked, were down really hard. Tech really up a lot. So there's a lot of movement in the background. But look, any bottom is a process. There's no holy grail. There's no single indicator out there. I've been doing this for about 25 years, and I've been looking for it. It isn't out there. It's going to be time. It's time-based. I applaud some of the efforts that are going on in government, but post-mortem to this, we're going to have to ask ourselves some pretty serious questions here. Is the cure worse than the disease? Because you're talking about shutting down the world economy, and I'm not sure any government out there has a checkbook fat enough to write checks that large.
I want to get over to Brian Sozzi because we have some news on Walmart. They're actually one of the few companies that are going to start hiring in a big way as they see demand for what they do pick up. What is the latest with Walmart?
Yeah, Alexis, Walmart's stepping up here ahead of the government. They released late last night. They're going to give part-time workers a $150 bonus, full-time workers a $300 bonus. Now, I caught up with Dan Bartlett. He heads for Walmart on a media call last night. More importantly, they said they are now getting ready to unveil coronavirus drive-up stations at Walmart. Those tents in parking lots essentially will be staffed by federal workers. And meanwhile, the Walmart staffers will also be trained to give those coronavirus tests out. Those tents, following a pilot, will start rolling out today into the weekend. But hat tip to Walmart for giving out some money to workers who surely need it right now.
David, I had a question. You had asked about, or you talked about shutting down the economy. If the economy shuts down, if we shut everything down immediately, let's say for 30 days, would we see the markets sort of ramp up quickly after that? I mean, President Trump had talked about pent-up markets and that we would see a spike after all of this is over.
I don't know that's true. You have to differentiate here. For some companies, it's a real challenge. The payments still keep going on. If you're a small business, you're still paying the lease payments out there. You have to differentiate between companies because what investors are trying to understand right now, markets go up based on earnings. And the basics of all valuation measures is the PE ratio, price to earnings. We understand what the P is, but what we don't understand is what the earnings likely to be for some of these companies 12 months out. When we get a handle on that, when we understand what Apple might earn over the next 12 months or what McDonald's might earn over the next 12 months, this will be over and investors can price in what the expected earnings is. In that mindset, when you don't know what those earnings are going to be the next 12, 24 months, investors price for the worst case scenario. And that's what we've seen really over the last couple of weeks is that type of confusion right now.
Yeah, you're right. It's sort of like we're driving blind because there really is no guidance from anybody right now because this is the first time we're living through something like this as not just a country, but as a world. Heidi, you've been looking at some of the other stocks like Hertz and Avis, the rental car companies. They're actually rallying amidst all of this. Why is that?
Hey, Alexis. Yeah, so we talk a lot about the different industries throughout the show, about which ones are being impacted the most. And the travel industry, of course, top of the list. But within that travel industry, yes, airlines are getting hit hard. Yes, cruise lines are getting hit hard. But one little small segment of the travel industry that we need to discuss is, of course, these rental car companies, which are very closely tied to the airlines. Because if people are not flying and they're not renting the cars at the airports, then you're seeing a steep decline. And so we saw Hertz, Avis Budget Group, as well as Enterprise Holdings CEOs write a letter to the Treasury Department to ask that they be included in the government's aid to their potential aid package for the travel industry. We saw that Hertz CEO saying that they're going to be hit just as hard as the airlines. So do not forget about them. The broader market is rallying today, but we're seeing an even bigger rally among these three names. They're all up more than 10% here in early trade. So if this group does in fact get included in this package, it would be very good news for investors.
Brian, I believe, did you have a question, Brian?
Yeah, David, over to you. Just playing off what Ines as mentioned before, I put this question to everyone on the shows. National quarantine, how does the stock market react when or if that is announced?
Gosh, I don't know the answer to that question, Brian. I wish I did. A national quarantine, would probably be a similar reaction like you're seeing in Europe. You're seeing that, play out in Italy. It's something we've never seen before. So it would be probably little more than a guess. One thing that isn't discussed enough is that this is rapidly becoming a credit event. And that was the difference between this and the financial crisis. The financial crisis was a credit event. And it hasn't been talked about enough, but what's happened in the energy complex right now, about 11% of the junk bond market right now is the energy complex. 11% of triple B paper, the lowest level of investment grade paper, is junk. Now moving to junk because it's the energy complex. So it translates into the financial community. And now we have to scrub the balance sheets because banks out there, somebody has the revolving credit on these companies. Somebody sold the bondholders protections in credit default swaps. That's how this starts to get a lot worse. And I don't know quite how we address that at this point. I thought what Saudi Arabia did was basically an act of war on our energy complex, and it has tentacles throughout the entire financial community, and it's playing out in real time in the market. Even in the fixed income markets, the safe haven play isn't so safe anymore.
Yeah, excellent point about the credit markets. They're not getting enough play here. David, do you think that the U.S. Federal Reserve will be given the ability very soon to go out and buy corporate debt? Is that the way to mitigate this situation? And what do you make of the U.S. now wanting to come in and broker a deal between the Saudis and Russia? Do you think that that's even going to work at this point?
I would hope they would do that because cascading prices in the energy complex, some of these companies are just not going to make it. The company name may survive because they'll be taken over by an Exxon or Chevron, but the equity certainly won't survive for some of these companies. It kind of, all hit at once, and it was kind of the perfect storm. It was almost like watching the World Trade Center and seeing the second plane go in. We already had this other problem to deal with, and it's all cascading at once. There's another side to this, and if we make the right decisions over the next couple of months as an investor, what you have to ask yourself is, what is it going to look like on the other side of this? What companies will be well positioned? We're going to actually change the way we live. And I actually even see it playing out in the supermarket. Things like cash are shunned. Right here in Connecticut, Metro North won't even accept cash because of the possibility of transmitting a disease. So everybody's using Apple Pay. So you're going to have to rethink what you're doing as an investor and try to focus on companies that will benefit from some of this.
That's a really good point. I was actually at a store yesterday, and when I paid with a credit card, they asked me to sign right on that little panel. Looking through with my finger. And I looked at the lady and I said, "Not going to do it." And she said, "That's okay. I understand." So you're right. I mean, our everyday little interactions are changing, and they could be changing going forward, even when we come out the other side of this.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.